We're going to see today how we can transform the way we deliver IT services using the Jira Service Desk solution. We'll be spending about 45 minutes or so together, like Dick mentioned. I'm going to start here with some slides and follow that up with a live demonstration. And again, just to highlight, if you do have any questions as we go, Dick mentioned the Q&A box, so do feel free to submit any questions you might have there, and we'll get to those at the end of the live demo portion. So my name is Alan Reynolds, like Dick mentioned. I joined RightStar as a pre-sales system consultant back in 2016. And I've got about 22 years experience in IT consulting and solution implementation. The last 15 or so of that working in the ITSM and ITIL spaces. I've been ITIL V3 Foundation certified for years, and I also have recently become DevOps Foundation certified as well. And I'm a certified Atlassian Jira administrator, as well as a certified Atlassian Jira Service Desk administrator. So what we're doing here today should be right in my sweet spot. So Atlassian is the vendor of Jira Service Desk, and Atlassian was a fairly unknown company, I suppose, until they went public a couple years ago. But now they're a $6 billion company with over 2,500 employees. And at last official count, more than 90,000 organizations, including 80 of the Fortune 100, were using Atlassian software, including Citigroup and eBay and Coca-Cola and Tesla and NASA. We like to joke that Atlassian is the biggest software company you've never heard of. The Atlassian solution is really a purpose-built suite of software, which is modularized for ease of use and flexibility. But they are combined to make up a well-thought-out solution that can support your organization from DevOps through IT service management. And the various pieces of the Atlassian solution, such as Jira Software and Confluence and HipChat and Bitbucket, Bamboo, and Jira Service Desk, all combine to make up a full end-to-end solution to support the application lifecycle. Now, we'll be focused on the Jira Service Desk piece of the solution today, but I'll also mention some other integrated pieces of the solution, such as HipChat and Confluence, as we go along. So, really, teams of all shapes and sizes have been transforming the way they deliver IT services using Jira Service Desk to give their customers the best service experience. In fact, just since its launch about 5 years ago, more than 25,000 teams are using Jira Service Desk. So these are small and medium-sized teams all the way up to large enterprise teams. And one thing that really sets Jira Service Desk apart from the competition is Atlassian's mission to provide an effortless user experience. Everyone seems to love how incredibly easy it is to set up and use Jira Service Desk. And in fact, independent reviewers have rated Jira Service Desk not only easiest to use, but shortest time to set up and easiest to maintain, among other similar solutions. So Jira Service Desk is purpose-built for IT and service teams and provides your teams with everything they need right out of the box, including incident and change and problem and service requests. It lets you give your customers an easy way to ask for help while your agents are able to resolve incidents faster and easier than ever. And Jira Service Desk scales to meet the growing needs of your IT service management, enabling your IT teams to really deliver world-class service. So what about ITIL? Can Jira Service Desk support the ITIL needs of your organization? You bet it can. As many of you already know, ITIL is the gold standard, really, for IT teams around the world. It's really just an integrated set of best practice processes for delivering IT services to customers. And its primary objective is to maximize the value to the business by aligning IT resources with business needs. So many Atlassian customers have been adopting Jira Service Desk to address their particular organization's ITIL needs. And it's really super flexible because it leverages the power of Jira, so it can offer an excellent starting point where IT teams can adopt these best practices right out of the box. And because Atlassian knows that ITIL is important to customers, they worked several years ago to get Jira Service Desk ITIL certified. So they achieved ITIL certification from both Pink Verify and Axelos for the ITIL processes of service request fulfillment, incident management, problem management, and change management. And to attain that ITIL certification, a software vendor has to satisfy 100% of the mandatory requirements for processing for the process to be verified. And Jira Service Desk was assessed against ITIL-compatible product features and terminologies and workflow and functional requirements and other criteria. So that ITIL certification is really a reassurance that the product's capable of supporting all your ITIL needs in those processes. So Jira Service Desk really stands out above the other vendors in the ITSM market because of the adaptability it provides for implementing and streamlining those processes, and really offers a true path to lean ITIL and ITSM. So I wanted to take a quick look at closer at each of these processes and how maybe Jira Service Desk can help support ITIL with those. So the first is service request fulfillment, and as we all know, IT receives a wide variety of requests from customers. These can include simple requests for support, or maybe a new mobile device, or some software installation, or the like. It's really the size and frequency and low-risk nature of these kinds of requests that makes them more appropriately handled by a separate process rather than handling with an incident process or a change management process. So ITIL identifies the process to handle these kinds of requests as request fulfillment or service request fulfillment. And Jira Service Desk provides a fast and efficient way to implement an ITIL-based service request catalog from a service request perspective. It provides ITIL best practice workflows that are needed to support requests that require approval and another separate workflow for ones that don't. So the self-service customer portal that Jira Service Desk provides makes it really easy for customers to request help and track progress on their own issues. And when you add the Atlassian collaboration solution called Confluence to Jira Service Desk, it makes it even simpler to add searchable knowledge-based articles to deliver even greater value to your customers. So incident management. Now, the Service Desk team provides the first line of response for incidents, since they're really the single point of contact for customer communications with IT. And according to ITIL, the aim of incident management is to restore any disruption of service as quickly as possible. So that'll include monitoring for any condition that has the potential to result in a reduced quality of service as well. Now, Jira Service Desk provides best practice ITIL workflows and fields required for IT teams to streamline their response to these major incidents. So when you combine the power of dynamic queues that we'll see later in the demonstration and collaboration and proactive SLAs, you really have a service desk that empowers IT teams to resolve incidents really quickly. And then there's problem management. Now, while the incident management is all about finding the shortest path to restoring normal service, problem management, on the other hand, is all about finding underlying causes of those incidents and then finding the best resolution to prevent those future incidents from happening again. So the aim of problem management is really to reduce the adverse impact of incidents that are caused by errors within the IT infrastructure, and of course to prevent recurrence of those incidents related to those errors. And Jira Service Desk, of course, provides a path for IT teams to implement problem management and make it just a logical extension of their incident management process. And finally, change management. So every IT organization faces the challenges of maintaining a constantly changing IT infrastructure. So ITIL gives us a set of best practices for change management that makes it easier for IT teams to prioritize and manage changes efficiently while minimizing the impact and risk to the business. So change management is the process designed to understand and minimize these risks while making all those necessary IT changes to critical systems and services. And Jira Service Desk, again, offers a streamlined path to ITIL change management by providing a standardized approach for prioritizing and responding to requests for change while reducing failed changes and service disruption, and defects and rework and that sort of thing. And IT teams can also leverage team calendars for Confluence, an app available for Confluence, to use it as the ITIL forward schedule of changes to help you be able to plan and coordinate the appropriate time to implement a change. And another great feature that Jira Service Desk is also makes it easy for IT teams to link change requests with software releases to really increase visibility and complete the communication between those teams. So let's move now into a live demo of the Jira Service Desk suite. So again, just as a reminder, feel free to enter any questions that you have in the Q&A box, and we'll have some time at the end after the live demo to begin to address those. So I'm going to switch now to my demo environment here, and I will share out that. So everyone should be able to see my desktop now. So we're going to start a live demonstration here of the Jira Service Desk solution. So before I actually show anything, I just wanted to set the stage for the role I'll be acting as today. Really, with Jira Service Desk, you could make a case that there are three roles. There's an admin role that would configure and maintain the system, as I've done with my demo system. But on a day-to-day usage perspective, there's really two roles. There's an agent role, and there's a customer role. So customers interact through the system with inside of the customer portal, or can also interact through email. And customers are really allowed to do three things in the portal. They can search knowledge, they can submit new issues, and they can find and update existing issues. And then agents, on the other hand, are those in the system who can do everything else. They can open tickets for other people and transition them along their life cycle and create knowledge-based articles and that sort of thing. So I'd like to start our demonstration today from an end user perspective, from the customer perspective in the customer portal, and take a look and see what the customer experience is with Jira Service Desk. And then we'll toggle over to the agent side of things and begin to see what the agent experience is like. So I'm going to start here in my Firefox browser, where I'm logged in as my demo user here, Patsy Portal. Now, Patsy's going to be the one that we're going to be using today as our test customer, as our demo customer. And she'll come to the portal today, and we're looking now at the Jira Service Desk customer portal from Patsy's perspective. Now, when Patsy arrives at the portal, she, of course, would see anything you've got here. We've got options for logos and colors and branding and that sort of thing to help Patsy recognize her experience here. And if needed, there is a way, as you can see, to have a banner message here in the portal to alert users of anything you might need them to know. Now, in this case, I've got a little banner message mocked up here showing some voice service outage that we're experiencing today, with a link to some information about that. But this might even just be a notification of a link to some information about your company. Really, the banner can be used for any of those, any communication purposes here at the top of the portal. But we'll say Patsy's coming to the portal today, and she's having several issues, and one, maybe she's having some network issues. So she could come here right in the middle of the portal to this search bar, and she could begin to search for maybe the word network, and she could begin to choose from some knowledge-based article suggestions about that. And she could review these text and graphic-rich knowledge-based article suggestions, and maybe she found that her Ethernet port wasn't quite plugged in well or something to that effect. So she's able to maybe resolve this first issue all by herself, without even having to submit a ticket for IT to have to deal with. So that helps everyone. Patsy gets immediate knowledge that helps her move on with her issue, and IT doesn't have to do an intake and processing of yet another issue. And Patsy can even provide feedback here at the bottom of this knowledge base article to let us know if it was helpful for her. So she could say, yes, this was helpful. And that feedback is rolled up into some reporting. We'll take a look at it at the end of our time. So Patsy's able to resolve her first issue here herself, but we do want to have some issues that we'll submit here so we can look at them from an agent perspective. So we'll also say that Patsy has another issue she needs. We'll say she's got a new hire that she needs to onboard. Someone new is joining her team, so she needs to submit a request to get that new person onboarded. Now, she could search for that request, maybe by new hire, and she would be presented with any knowledge-based article suggestions that might relate to that, but she would also be presented with any request types in the portal that she might submit related to that. So in this case, she'll choose this new hire onboard option. But rather than selecting that there, I'd like to also show you that even if Patsy didn't want to search for that in the search box, she could simply choose that option from the list of options at the bottom of her screen. So what we have here at the bottom is a list of different request categories down the left side and the various requests in those categories down the right. So we see this same new hire onboard that Patsy was able to find by searching here under common requests. But because these categories are just labels on the requests, a given request can appear in more than one category. So that new hire onboard not only shows up in common requests, but also shows up here under user authentication. And so this helps you structure your service catalog in a way that users find it easier to find what they're looking for. So regardless of how she gets to it, Patsy would drill down into this new hire onboard, and she would be presented with a list of data elements that I, as an admin in my demo system here, have decided that we would gather from someone when they're onboarding a new hire. Now, just to be clear, there's nothing hard-coded here. These are the data elements or fields that we have decided here for my fictitious demo company that we would need to gather from a user when they're requesting to onboard a new hire. Now, these fields may be different in your environment, and this is strictly just data configuration of the system to build out these requests. And of course, we could help you with getting started with that if need be. So to save us just a moment, I went ahead and opened up this request in a new tab before we got started and filled out the data. So I've given this person a first name and a last name and a job title and a start date. Notice here that I've said we don't need a mobile device for him, but we are going to need a laptop. And here's some software that we'd like to add to that. So I'm going to click Create here to get my first request going here in the portal as Patsy. And when I create that, I'm brought to a view of that request that lists all of the data that I've provided here. And it also shows me, or shows Patsy, that this request requires an approval. And she can even see who that approval is needed from. And in this case, it's from a gentleman named Mark Manager. So we'll leave this request for a moment. And this is sort of a service request. I don't have something that I'd like, so I'm placing a request for it. But I also wanted to show you how a user might report maybe an incident, maybe a problem, an issue that they're having, an outage of some sort. So we'll come back to the main portal screen here, and we'll say that Patsy has yet one more issue that we need to deal with today. We'll say that Patsy has a link on her company's intranet to her payroll system, ADP, let's say. And when she's trying to click on the ADP link on her company's internal intranet, she's getting a 404 error. So she needs to report a problem about this, and maybe she could use this report a system problem request type for that. So we'll come here and we'll say that ADP is not working on the intranet. And we'll say I get a 404 error, let's say. So you notice as I begin typing in this request, I also get knowledge-based article suggestions that might help me. Now, maybe these would help me prevent me from submitting this issue if they provide me with some information that might head me off at the pass here. But it also might help me understand how to submit this issue or maybe what to expect when I do. I don't need that here right now, so I'll go ahead and dismiss it. And I did want to show you one other thing here. As a user is submitting a request, they have the option, if you enable this option in your system, to either keep that request private or to share that with their organization or any organizations that they might be in. So Jira Service Desk allows you to group your customers into what they call organizations. And now this organization could be an external customer company or an internal department or division or a vendor maybe. But the reason for the organization structure is it allows a user, when they're submitting a request, to share this request with other people in their organization. So maybe if Patsy's going to be out of the office or is reporting this for somebody else, maybe they want to also be aware of the progress of this issue. So she'd maybe want to share that, as I've done here with the other folks in her organization. So I'll click Create to get that one created. Now, we've seen how users can search knowledge and how they can submit requests. The other thing we mentioned that they can do is find and update existing requests, and they can do that with the request button here at the top. So Patsy can see her requests here, or requests that have been shared with her organization, or maybe requests that have been shared directly with her by email address or username, if that option is enabled in your system. And if she goes to one of these lists, she can search by the status of their request or the kind of request, or even for a particular request by keyword. So she could even search on ADP here and get right here to the ADP issue she had submitted. And maybe she needs to say, I need this ASAP or something. Maybe she forgot to add some data. She can interact with the agent assigned to the ticket this way and provide more information and have a conversation in line in this ticket that way. So we'll leave the customer experience now here, where I've been working in my Firefox browser as our end user Patsy portal. And I'm going to toggle over to my Chrome browser, where I'm logged in as myself. Now, I'll be acting as an agent in the system today, and when an agent logs into the system, they're initially brought to a dashboard. Now, a dashboard is just a collection of gadgets that are visual representations of things in the system. So I have a dashboard configured here for demonstration purposes that maybe provides my agents a little bit of information. I've got a little gadget showing that voice service outage we talked about, and a link to our shift pass down log, and maybe a link to a team outing and our this week's lunch menu, for example. I've also got another gadget here showing me what percentage of my issues are coming in from what source. So I can see in my demo system here that about 60% of my issues are coming in by phone. And I can I see a list here of issues assigned to me, or the activity stream, and bar charts and pie charts and heat maps. There's really dozens of gadgets you can add to a dashboard and configure them for your use. And you define a single dashboard as a default system dashboard, but then you can have as many public or private dashboards as you want. So you're able to have full configuration over those and use those as you need to. So once an agent would glean whatever information they would need to from the dashboard, they would choose a project to work with. And in this case, I'm going to choose the ITIL Service Desk project that is paired with the portal that Patsy was using. And so as I come into this, I'm initially brought here to my list of queues. Now, queues are similar probably to some other service desk products, but I find most of them are strictly tickets assigned to a specific team. And of course, we can do that. I've got tickets assigned to my service desk team, and that's where the issues from Patsy have come in, because I've got my service desk team triaging those inbound incidents. I've got some issues assigned to my problem team and my change team, but I've also just got a list of unassigned issues or things I've personally recently submitted. Ultimately, a queue in Jira is just a criteria you put against all the issues in the project to get you down to an actionable list. So maybe you'd have a queue for VIP tickets or tickets about to miss their SLAs or something like that. But before we take a look at a couple of the issues Patsy has submitted, I just wanted to show you how you might create an issue as an agent in the system. So we'll say Patsy's maybe having one last issue. This time she's having to call in because she's unable to log in. She's forgotten her password. So as an agent, I can choose the Create button at the top of my screen. And then I would choose a project that's going to default to the one I'm in, and I'll choose an issue type. So in this case, we'll say that Patsy's password reset is an incident. We'll classify that as an incident in our system. And I'm using a little app for Jira here called Issue Templates that allows me to do some templating of issues ahead of time, so that maybe I can choose this network password reset template to automatically populate my summary and description here for this new issue. And so that'll do two things: help me take that issue really quickly, and it'll also help me keep some data standardization across my issues. I've also added a first call resolution option here to this particular system. And I'm going to check that box and click Create here to show you a little bit more about that. Now, when I do create as an agent, I get a little pop-up here that I can click on to open and view my issue I've just submitted. And because this one was a first call resolution, it came in as automatically resolved with all of its SLAs met, automatically assigned to me, and with a note here that this was done as a first call resolution. So if you have a need to do what some call a quick ticket here, where I'm taking a call and I need to record the fact that I've taken the call, but the issue isn't going to live beyond that call, this might be an easy, quick way for you to record those calls. So let's come to our queues now, and we'll look at the issues that Patsy submitted in the portal. And we'll go first with this new hire onboard. So the first thing I notice here, I'll make us a little more screen real estate by minimizing my sidebar here. So the first thing I notice here is that I can see a lot more data here in the agent view than I could from Patsy's perspective. I can see that that new hire onboard here from the portal matches me up to a service request here in my agent side, and therefore this request is matched up with the workflow I have paired up with service requests, which I've called service request workflow in my system. And a workflow is really just a collection of states that an issue could be in and all the allowed transitions between them. So in this case, I come into a new status, and I, as an agent, would like to begin working this ticket, but I don't actually have a workflow menu to do that. And that's because this issue is waiting on an approval. We need Mark's approval before I can start working on this. So I'm going to toggle over to my third browser here, an Opera browser, where I'm logged in as Mark Manager. Now, he's the one we mentioned that's going to need to approve this. And Mark can use his portal just like Patsy can. To submit issues and find and update existing issues and search knowledge. But he has an additional option here for approvals because Mark has been indicated as an approver in the system. So he can drill down into Patsy's request and maybe communicate back and forth via comments if he needs to determine if he should approve. But we'll say he told Patsy to submit this, so he'll go ahead and approve it. And I'm going to toggle back to my agent interface, and we'll refresh here. And we can see that not only did we need, but we also got that approval from Mark. And now I'm in an approved status, and I have a workflow menu. So as an agent logged in here as myself, I can begin to work this issue. So I'm going to take this transition to begin work. And we'll notice that that puts me in progress and assigns it to me and has met my acceptance SLA. So you will notice I've defined two SLAs in my system, one to resolution and one to acceptance. And I've actually set the targets for those different for service request as other request types in my system. So in this case, I've given 3 days to resolution for a service request and a couple hours to accept it. And we've met that acceptance criteria by moving to in progress. And you'll notice here that not only can we see the data that Patsy submitted in the portal, but also the system was configured to automatically create some subtasks here to detail the work that might need to be done to onboard this new hire. And to do that, I'm using a little app for Jira that allows me to create records on transitions. And so I've even been able to assign these out to the specific folks that will be working these. And note that in my system, these first 4 happen all the time. We have to generate a network account, a personal drive, a voicemail, and a staff directory update for everyone. But in this case, we only added this build PC and install software task. The system knew to only add those because we said we needed a laptop. So the system can respond to data provided in the portal and create subtasks appropriately. So maybe I want to let Patsy know I've got this. So I could come down to my comments section and I could choose an initial response here that I've saved in my canned responses that'll populate Patsy's name and some canned text to her. And anytime I comment in Jira Service Desk, I can come in internally for only agents to see, or I can share that with customer so that agents can see this, but also the customers could see this in their portal. So I'll do that so Patsy can see this update that I've sent her. And also I want to notice here that in the agent view, we're also presented Knowledgebase Articles suggestions when viewing an issue, just like customers were in the portal. So I see I've got one for how to prepare for a new hire here. Maybe I want to review that, and it looks like something I want to share with Patsy. So I could do that with this Share as Comment button, which puts a link to that knowledge base article down in the comments section, and I could send that off to Patsy. Maybe I'd want to add some other text there, but Patsy would get a notification here that she could review that knowledge base article and do whatever she needs to move some data off to her network drive or something to prepare for this new hire onboard. So another thing we can do here is log work. So we notice as on each of these subtasks, maybe different people are spending time on this. So maybe as Norman Network is performing his tasks, he might want to log some work. So maybe he says he spent an hour on this first task, and you'll notice that time is shown in the sidebar here as a roll up of the hour that's been spent on this subtask. But if I were to pop up to the main new hire onboard task, you can see that that time has been reported on that subtask, but you can also see it here on the main task. So you can see a full roll-up of all the time that's been spent across this issue and all of its subtasks to get a full vision of the time commitment that's been put into this particular issue. So once those tasks are all completed, we would choose to go ahead and resolve this issue, and at that point we'd provide a resolution. Maybe we'll say we're done, and I could even log some more time here if I'd like to and resolve that issue. And when I do resolve an issue, if it's enabled in your system, the system would send out a survey with a configurable question and a 5-point scale that users could respond on to let you know how you were doing, how you did on that request as you resolved it. So I'm going to leave this new hire onboard and come back to our queue here, and I want to pick up this last one that Patsy submitted, this one around this ADP issue. So again, I'll go ahead and take control of this one by beginning work on this one, and because this didn't have an approval needed, I was able to start work on this one right away. And again, we've got some SLAs defined here on the system, but for incidents, I've said that our goals are only an hour to acceptance and only 1 day to resolution, as opposed to the 2 hours and 3 days we allowed for service requests. So maybe as I begin work on this, maybe I don't really know much about ADP or that internet issue, so maybe I need some help. So I could come down here to my comments, and I could mention maybe my Adam colleague, and I could say, what should I do here? And instead of sharing with the customer, I'm going to comment internally. Adam would then be notified that he's been linked here on this issue, and he could respond and let me know what he thinks I should do. And what Adam tells me is that actually this is not an isolated incident that Patsy is reporting this morning. We've actually got several reports of ADP issues on our intranet. So he's advised that I should open up a problem request to check into that. So I'm going to choose from my More menu to create a linked issue. So again, I'm going to create a new issue, but instead this time of an incident, I'm going to create a problem request, and I'll leave the default summary here. I'd probably want to update that, but in the interest of time, and I'll make sure that gets over to our problem team. And again, when I create that issue, I get my little pop-up with a link to that, but notice I've now also got a permanent link here on my incident 3181 to my new problem request 3183, and if I drill down on that problem, I have the reverse relationship as well. And because Adam had told me we have several incidents about this, I want to make sure we link all of our incidents to this problem. So I'm going to come out and search for issues, and I'm going to search for ADP, and we'll go ahead and link all these other issues that have come in around ADP this morning so that we have a full picture of all the incidents that would relate to this problem. So now maybe I put on my problem management hat as a problem management person, and maybe I begin an investigation here on this one. And again, maybe we'll say that I don't quite know what to do with this, but I've been told that I need to do some research myself. So I'm going to come over here to a link I've added to my project shortcuts to an agent knowledge base. Now I've got a separate knowledge base here for my agents that then from my customer knowledge base, so that I can provide some information to my agents that we don't expose to our customers. So maybe I could begin to look through some run books and see what I could do, but maybe I'm still lost and I need to reach out for some help here. So maybe I want to do that. Now, Instead of doing that with an @mention this time, I'd like to show you the HipChat integration with Jira Service Desk. HipChat, as I mentioned, is the IM chat solution by Atlassian, and the integration here allows me to create or choose a chat room to relate to this issue and maybe invite some other folks to come join here and chat in that room. And I'm not sure if you saw what I did there, but once the button went away to choose or created a chat room, I now get a link to the chat room that I've related to this issue. And I can see in that chat room now that any updates from this issue are now going to be funneled here to this chat room. So now any comments, such as maybe this will show in chat, would be funneled directly to that chat room. So anybody watching that chat room would be notified of the updates on that issue so that I could see them right here. Now, if I was using a single issue for this, it might be 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, whether I use a @mention or a chat room. But the real beauty of the chat room is that I can now take this chat room and add it to every one of the incidents that have been related to this problem. So instead of creating a room this time, I'll choose the existing room. And now everything that's happening on this incident also will be funneled into this chat room. So now everyone chatting about this problem and these 4 incidents and the eventual change request that we will create to make a change to production to fix this will all be chatting in one place to swarm this issue and kill it. And maybe we'll say my backline has told me through that chat room that what we have here is really a problem where ADP updated their URL and didn't tell us. So we're going to need to get that updated on our intranet. But in the meantime, I'm going to get a Knowledgebase article created here to let people know what the workaround might be for that. So I'm going to choose a troubleshooting Knowledgebase article here, and that's going to open up a brand new page in Confluence. Confluence is the collaboration wiki-style tool that can be paired with Jira Service Desk to provide the knowledge base. So maybe I'd say, go to adp.com directly or something like that. I won't take much time here, but once that knowledge base article has been published, we'll be able to let users in the portal to see that and maybe prevent new ADP issues from being submitted. We also might want to be sure that we note where this problem is in our environment. So I'm going to come and edit this issue, and I'm going to add the configuration items from our CMDB that relate to this, which happen to be these intranet A and B servers, so that I can see right here on my problem where the issue lies in my network. And probably the only other thing I need to do here now is get a change request going to get that ADP URL updated on our intranet. So one last time, I'll create a linked issue here, but instead of creating a problem, this time I'm going to create a change request, and we'll say maybe ADP needs to be updated, that the URL is wrong. And again, we'll make sure this gets to our change management team and click create. And again, we get our pop-up, but also a permanent link here related to our change request that we'll be working. Now, again, we need an approval here on this change request because in my system, I've decided we need initially some sort of business approval here at my first level. And if we pass that, then we're going to go on to some sort of CAB approval before we can really begin working this change. So one last time, I'm going to come over here to Mark's portal, and we'll go ahead and approve this change request that's been submitted. So we can see Mark is approved, but now Corey Cab is going to need to approve. So one last browser here. We're logged into Internet Explorer here as Corey Cab, who's going to be doing our CAB approval. And he would drill down into his approvals and review what's been done and maybe ask questions or possibly update the request during a CAB meeting as we review those. But he'll go ahead and approve. And once we do, we would have this change approved and ready to be worked. And maybe the next step we'd want to do is to begin planning this, which would possibly need us to pick a date we'd want to do that on. So I wanted to show you again in my project shortcuts, I've added a link to our forward schedule of changes. So again, this is implemented with the Team Calendars for Confluence app for Confluence, which allows me to visualize Jira issues in a calendar format. So I can see I've got a change coming up this weekend, but that's not much, and I could probably go ahead and do our ADP update then. I can also see some previous changes that were actually completed in the last couple weekends. But this will help me plan this update to our system in a time that makes sense for us. So I would again continue to work on through this issue just like we did the other to the point of resolution. I won't take time here to do that today, but I would then link back to our problem folks and verify with our incident people that everything has been resolved and completed as we close out the rest of these issues. But as I mentioned, we've got some reporting here. So as issues are resolved, if we do have surveys turned on, folks can reply to those surveys and provide a comment and a rating. And here in this report, we can even see the issue that feedback was provided on. So if I wanted to drill down into that issue, I could even see that feedback right on any issue as I'm reviewing it. So if I need to remediate some problem with this or hopefully congratulate someone on a job well done, that's a nice way to be able to do that. And we also mentioned some knowledge-based article reports on effectiveness and usage that are powered here by how many issues a knowledge-based article has been related to and how often a customer has said they're helpful to keep your knowledge base up to date and fresh. So that's about what I had to show you today. I do want to take a time here for any questions that may have come in. So Dick, have we had any questions come through?
We have, and great job, Alan. Very comprehensive. I liked how you went through, starting with service request to an incident, SLA, problem management, knowledge management, change reporting. You can cover just about everything in about 40 minutes. So way to go. But anyway, one question. There are some questions, but I noticed you had 4 different browser types. Was there any reason? Was that partly just to show that it doesn't really matter what type of browser you have?
It's partly that and partly just to save time from logging in and out of browsers. I could work in a single browser, but then I'd have to log out and log back in. So this way I can stay logged in as all 4 of my users and just toggle back and forth. And it does illustrate the versatility of the system across different browser types and systems. Okay.
And by the way, now would be a good time to submit a question. I know we're a little bit over, but we'll definitely be done before 3 o'clock here. Let me ask you a question then. You showed everything. We ran out of time. You really didn't get a chance to show the CMDB side, but I know that's very important because if you're going to bring somebody on and you're going to onboard somebody, you've got to make sure that the CMDB gets populated, right? Can you talk a little bit about that? I don't know if you need to show it, but or maybe you can.
You bet. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and bring it up while I do.
Yeah.
So the CMDB functionality for Jira Service Desk is provided by an app for Jira called Insight, which allows the CMDB modeling. So in this case, I've got several different classes built out in my system, such as laptops and the servers we looked at. And this can be either populated manually or in an automated way. If you happen to already have a tool that is gathering discovery information across your environment, we can use that data to automatically populate the CMDB. If you don't already have something, there is a discovery tool automatically paired up with Insight Asset Management called Insight Discovery that can be used to do that. And then this allows you to relate infrastructure items in your network to particular tickets so that we can begin to see where that involvement is. And if I look at any given asset in the CMDB, I can see any changes that have been made to that. So there's a full audit log on any Jira issue or on any asset, so I can see who updated what when, from what value to what value. And I can also see any related Jira issues on this. So this might be the issue to recycle this laptop before it came back into inventory from someone to make it available again. There's also an object graph here that allows you to drill down through the information and look at various pieces of the infrastructure in a graphic way that helps you visualize that CMDB data.
Okay.
So hopefully that's a little peek there into the CMDB.
All right. Well, let's run through some of the questions here. And the very first one is ITIL still valued with Agile and with Jira. And let me take a shot at that one because I happen to attend. I enjoy going to these conferences, and I went to the Pink Elephant Conference. It was this week. It was down in Orlando, and David Radcliffe, who's the president and CEO of Pink Elephant, got up. And by the way, Pink Elephant is this huge ITIL consultancy, and he was talking about how ITIL's changed over the years. And I think that there's been about 3 million people that now have this ITIL certification. But what his main point is that ITIL is not really enough. And that it's a good start, but after all this time has passed, I think that people understood that processes are not enough, and the business is driving things typically, and it may move a lot faster than the ITIL side really wants to move, and so that's where Agile has come from, and enter the world of DevOps. And if you go to these shows now, there's a ITSM or an ITIL side, and there's also a DevOps side. And it's really important for most organizations that how to increase productivity, how to do more with less, how to be lean, and that at the same time, let's not forget about ITIL. So that's the sort of the thing that he's talking about, David Radcliffe, in other words, is this whole concept of integrated service management, and that's the same thing that Atlassian and Jira covers, where you get dev and ops all working together under the same umbrella. Yeah. So let's go to the next question. It says here, with what you have shown us on your already set up environment, what is the ballpark number of add-on products you have needed to have your environment set up the way you do?
I believe the only ones I showed today were, well, let's make a distinction between solutions and add-ons. The main solutions we showed today were Jira Service Desk and Confluence and HipChat. Those are the main Atlassian solutions. All of them have a full open API, so you could either develop something yourself or choose something from the Atlassian marketplace, where Atlassian solution partners have provided pre-built integrations with other systems and additional functionality for the system that might not be out of box. In this case, I've used about 3 of those today. Team calendars for Confluence to allow the calendar view of the Jira issues. I've used an add-on that allows me, upon a transition, when I make a transition from one state to another, to create subtasks. And I've used an add-on to do the no, actually, I haven't anymore. That's out of box now. I believe those are the only. Oh, well, Insight, of course. I'm sorry, I did forget that. The Insight Asset Management is also an add-on, or what they call now an app for Jira to provide the CMDB functionality. So today, those are the only 3 that are in the system that are providing functionality that we looked at today.
Right, but it all looks like it's one big system. You can't tell that you're moving from one system to another. Okay. Next question. This hopefully will be an easy one. What, if any, database does this use?
So the application server would be installed, and then it would be pointed at a database. And most of the main database vendors are supported: Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, PostgreSQL, MySQL. I think there might be another one I'm missing there. But all the main database vendors are supported, and that is where not only the data but the configuration for the system would lie. In that database. Yep.
And another question up here is reporting on tickets/instances open, closed, in progress is important to us. Does JSD have any reporting functions? Now, you didn't get a chance to go into that in much detail. Right.
Yeah, so we looked just briefly at reporting here. I mentioned a couple of the reports inside this project on satisfaction and article usage. There's also reports on SLA goals, as well as team workload, and then a way to create custom reports. So it's just created versus resolved, and time to resolution, so on and so forth. These are sort of visual roll-up reports, like the ones maybe in the dashboards, where you're presented with sort of a picture and maybe a number, like there are this many created on this date, and I could drill down into this 15 to see those 15 issues that make up the 15 in that report, and then I could drill down into any one of these to see the data on that issue. So these are those kind of roll-up drill-down reports. But you also have the ability to search for any issue that you have access to in the system using the issue search here. And I can begin to narrow what I'm looking at here by maybe only looking at a particular project, and maybe I only want standard issue types and I don't want to see any subtasks. So I actually have the ability to search for any criteria I might want in my system. And once I do have a good search that I like here, I could export that to CSV or Word or HTML. I can also save that, and once I save a search, I have the option to share it with other people, and I also have an option to subscribe to it. So maybe every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, I want a search of all the current open VIP issues in my system delivered to my email. You can do that. You can decide that you want a particular search delivered to a particular person or group of people at a given schedule.
Okay, one last question, and then we got to sign off. So,
sure.
Can you differentiate ticket numbers by issue type, such as incidents or change requests?
The actual issue ID would have a prefix for the project it's in, as opposed to the type of issue that it is. So in this case, the prefix for this particular project I'm using, my service desk, is SVD CD1. So all of the issues in that project would share that same prefix.
Okay. Great.
If you did want to separate into separate projects by type, you could have that prefix be specific to the type.
Okay. Well, I think that pretty much concludes the webinar. Thank you very much, Alan.